Welcome to another edition of Fansview Friday. We're taking it back to the West Coast today with Fanime Con in Santa Clara, California. This Fanime Con is took place on March 30th through April 1st, 2001, so that's over 20 years ago. With Fansview Fridays, we've been covering a lot of East Coast cons, a lot of Mid Atlantic cons from Kevin Lillard's website, Fansview. If this is your first time checking out Fansview Fridays, just a little quick bit what we do here. Fansview Fridays, this is an honor and memorial to Kevin Lillard, one of the pioneers of convention and cosplay photography. This gentleman was able to cover conventions from coast to coast for a good chunk of the late 90s and 2000s. And a lot on his website has been lost to time, and thanks to websites like archive.org, has preserved most of his coverage. And this is convention history, this is fandom history. We do not want to get lost in the ether. So, with that said, if this is your first time, welcome to the cottage. Glad to have you here. I am the Wisteria Witch, and let's take a trip to Santa Clara in 2001. All right. I was actually supposed to go to this convention, but I had commitments during this weekend, sadly. All right, let's just read here. Singer Mariujima and artist Hiroshi Aro were at the first West Coast anime convention of the new year. Okay, and we could also look at the old fanmade convention website. What does you know what? I'm kind of curious. What does archive.org have in store for the old fanmade website? Wow, this is like a flashback. FanimeCon 2002. I didn't even go this year either. I had commitments during that weekend as well, and I also was not living up in the Bay Area during that time. You could register via PayPal. FanimeCon is a convention where enthusiasts gather to celebrate the art of Japanese animated cartoons, anime, and comic books. Manga, established in 1994 as a one-day gathering of San Francisco Bay Area anime fan clubs, it has evolved and expanded into a three-day non-stop multimedia extravaganza with over 3,500 attendees in 2001 and an expected turnout of nearly 5,000 attendees in 2002. Oh, we can read more about FanimeCon history here. Curious what they got to say. I know we're probably going to go into the rabbit hole here, but I'm just amazed that they have like the old fan-made website totally archived here. All right, but you know what? It's Fansview Friday, so let's just take a peek into the history of Fanime here in at Fanime 2001. All right, so let's start off with Friday. Okay, first came the opening ceremonies on Friday morning. FanimeCon got off to a Friday morning start, featuring a lineup of the senior staff and a recitation of the history of the con, which started as an anime club get together and grew to fill a hotel. When the guest of honor, starting with Usagi Yojimbo creator Stan Sakai, I rarely go to anime conventions, but this is something special, he said. Singer and songwriter Mariujima was next, fresh from the recording session of her new album. This is like my hometown. I love FanmateCon, she said. Director and writer Greg Reisman said, I'm kind of an anime virgin, referring to his work on the new dub of the 3x3i series for New Generation Pictures. He's also known for creating the now defunct Gargoyles animation. Now defunct Gargoyles animation. I know this guy! Librarian and writer Giles Portress asked first time convention goers at the opening ceremonies to stand and was impressed by the number of people at their first con. Hiroyuki Yamaga of Gainax said he was writing a script for new shows and wanted California fans to ask him about that work, and he brought FLCL videos too. Okay, there's more from opening ceremonies here. New tech programmer Alan Hastings is part of the California creative community at FanimeCon, on hand to demonstrate the latest version of his Lightwave software for film production and special effects. Artist Adam Warren made his first West Coast anime convention appearance. He said he's planning to follow up his Dirty Pair and Gen X series with a new independently published series this year. The Studio Iron Cat contingent began with artist and still aspiring actor Doug Smith, who said, "I've never turned around a lot of product that Iron Cat has been doing over the years." Veteran fan Fred Patton took a moment to recall how he got his first anime videotapes from Japan by trading Star Trek tapes to Japanese fans for anime recordings. Then came Steve Bennett of Iron Cat, who made his first joke about the rolling electric blackouts that hit California in previous weeks. "Hopefully the lights won't go out until I get off the stage." Hiroshi Aro, the Futakaba Kun Change artist whose works are published by Iron Cat, joked he didn't like leaving his home, but here he was again at a US anime convention. Child actor turned director Taliesin Jaffe was on hand to talk about the new dub of the Nia Under 7 series for New Generation. "It's a little weird, no, it's really weird, and I finished 48 hours ago, and I have not slept since then." Actor Tiffany Grant got a big cheer when she was introduced, then quipped about how she had a nightmare about how she was going to have to perform a monologue at the ceremony. The New Generation contingent included co-founder Jonathan Klein, who said this has been a great year for our company because of the highly regarded anime dubs they had produced. "Oh, I know this fella. Yeah, I owe you a few things, okay?" All right, actor Jonathan Osborne joked that most of his voice work for New Generation was handled by handling bit parts for characters who immediately get killed, but he was hoping for larger roles. How's that ancient Chinese cabbage treating ya? Not on hand for an opening ceremony, but present for an evening brunch featuring the guests of honor were Lieutenant Director Kunihiko Ikuhara and Kevin Bennett of Studio Iron Cat. You know what? I've heard of Steve Bennett, but I've never heard of Kevin Bennett. All right, let's take a look at the cosplayers that attended Fanime. Came for the first wave of California cosplayers. It looks like we got 11 pages to sift through. Let's just see what comes up here. Again, Kevin Lillard's website is mostly preserved. Like sometimes you won't get the full picture. But let's see what images of cosplayers have made it through the archiving process. It is taking a bit of time. Hey, welcome, Warlock Listria. Hope you're doing well. Glad to have you here. Okay, come on. All right, let's see if we can get page 2 to come up. All right, now we have photos of ancient cosplayers from ancient Santa Clara. And again, this is just kind of giving you an idea of what we had to work with back then because we didn't have anything fancy like, like for example, like a fancy Uwa or Doki Doki cosplay to shop from. A lot of these were either commissioned or you had to kind of figure out how to make it yourself. And you got some creative people just kind of like just doing their own thing. Got Ash and a Jiggly Dom. It's funny because I've seen so many people do like different interpretations of Jigglypuff. A friend of mine does like an old Hollywood version. A friend of mine does like CM Punk Jigglypuff. Oh, I love that Lena inverse. Yeah, we got Kenshin, a Kenshin cosplayer, Mononoke, Ranma. Oh, that's my buddy Ace in the background. Wait, I think I know this guy. One of my buddies casting as Minmay. Good Times with Shugi Yugi. I assume that this is Two Heart. That's a series I haven't heard in a while. We got Sorcerer Hunters, Utena in the manga variant colors, because Shio Saito likes to draw Utena in so many different ways, in so many different colors. Yeah, this cosplayer here, they were known for doing a lot of Gakuten Mana and a lot of Malice Miser Visual K cosplays back in the day. And I was always floored because they've always built their cosplays from scratch, and I was always floored about like their craftsmanship. I think I know this guy right here. One of the dudes from Escaflowne. I think I attended his MS3T3K X 1999, and I believe it was the end of Evangelion movie. Yeah, Dryden from Escaflowne. Mr. I'm a Tortured Poet. We got Sailor Mercury. Looks like she's just came back from registration. It's kind of scrolling through here. And again, you kind of have to like just give like a lot of love to these cosplayers here because again, this is like during the time we were just kind of like just figuring it all out. Like we have Mistress Nine here, and at the time we were very limited on what kind of color wigs were out there. Because I remember like during this time, when I was cosplaying as Nadeshiko, Cardcaptor Sakura's mother, I was very limited to dark purple or a very light purple from Party City. Got Terry over there. Oh, that's a cute Rose Bride. Yeah, I love these classic cosplays too. It looks like we're kind of stumbling in ours alley. I actually do have this colored pencil set right here. Like yeah, just kind of like going through these photos is like strolling down memory lane. Seeing Evangelion cosplays here of the Eva adults. I also cosplay as Masato too, and I think did I cosplay as Asuka? No, I tested a Asuka cosplay and I didn't like how it turned out, so I was like, I'm gifting this Asuka cosplay to someone because it's not working for me. Yeah, I used to do like plainclothes cosplay. Like when I first started, I would just take whatever I can find from Goodwill or like TJ Maxx and just like put it all together. All right, Fanime Con Friday, Gargoyles. The Gargoyles animated series full of romance, passion, and Star Trek voice actors is gone but not forgotten. It's still popular enough to generate its own convention in 2001 in California, featuring a reunion of most of the cast and creative staff. Gargoyles creator Greg Weisman would love to restart the series and has never run out of ideas for the characters. Every time we told a story, we created an idea for 5 more stories. Weisman said at a FanmateCon panel, by the way, the link between Gargoyles and anime is Wiseman, who handled the dub for 3x3 Eyes for New Generation Pictures. Hey, welcome! Yay, we have a raider here! Welcome, welcome, welcome! Glad to have you here. Welcome, Raiders, to Fansview Fridays. We are talking about Fanime Con 2001, and right now we are talking about a Gargoyles panel at Fanime 2001. If Gargoyles was so good, why did it fade off the air? Weisman said it was a complicated explanation. The first 2 seasons of the series generated 65 episodes, enough to make it ready for a re-release via syndication to TV stations. On the other hand, Gargoyles wasn't as popular in its day than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and the series wasn't successful enough to encourage Walt Disney executives to continue it in the form that Weisman preferred. And those executives didn't necessarily understand the meaning or appeal of the stories about great stone creatures who fight their battles only at night. Weisman admitted that Gargoyles really may have appealed to adults to be a successful cartoon series in the US. You know, we need to do like Gargoyles like 2025 and give it like the X-Men 97 treatment. That's just me personally. What about the Star Trek voices? Weisman said these actors were great for the roles they played, and after a couple were hired, it was easier to get more. Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes were the first. It was a matter of the best people auditioning for the roles, he said. And Wiseman had to admit that it was a great publicity for all the familiar voices from the cult TV series, from Michael Dorn, LeVar Burton, and Nichelle Nichols to Brent Spiner and Kate Mulgrew on a cartoon show. We got at least one person from every Star Trek cast, he recalled. Yeah, I would love to see like a revival of Gargoyles, like a much more like adult kind of continuation. Again, probably like as a Disney Plus kind of exclusive. And just getting the right people involved, I think you can have something as amazing as X-Men 97. All right, let's look at digital manga. If you're looking for a product announcements from FanMeCon, the first item of interest came on Friday afternoon from Digital Manga. The small company that has been concentrating on art supplies and web pages has some plans to move into anime translation and sales in North America, and those plans were made public at the Santa Clara convention. There were also some items from a Japanese producer which appears to be interested in having more control over the way its products are handled in North America. First, Artist Santiago, a digital manga, said that the company will set up its own production company to be called Sync Point. Ooh, I know where this is going in the future, and build its own studio. They expect to release Tenchi Narumon in the summer of 2001 and the FLCL later in the year. Stephanie Shea of Digital Manga announced that the anime titles which will be released are Tenchi ni Narumon, the Studio Pierrot show, which will be called I'm Gonna Be an Angel in English, and FLCL, the Gainax and Production IG series, which will retain its Furikuri nickname in North America. The author notes that FLCL first came to attention in the US through a Gainax presentation at FanMeCon 1 year earlier. The announcement of FLCL got the most attention from the fans gathered for the announcement. FLCL's odd combination of alien invasion and teenage life has drawn attention from North American fans, and they were fascinated to find that this small Californian company would get the title. Why would digital manga startup effort get those titles? According to Maki Terashima of Production IG USA, there's some dissatisfaction with the way other North American production companies have handled anime shows. We've been hearing company complaints about how the Japanese creators are not satisfied with the English language versions of their works in the US, Terashima said. We are now going to avoid that. Also, Production IG wants us to establish their company as a video brand in the US and intends to sell the series as Production IG videos. FLCL was one of the series that Terashima mentioned at the vanguard of Production IG's new sales and marketing effort, with the other being Love Hina, which will be released by Bandai. Urban Vision plans to draw attention to an imaginative anime movie. Yes, I remember Love Hina. That was like one of my go-to animes, like when I was in university. It was like baby's first. My first harem anime is technically Tenchi Muyo, but Love Hina just took it to another level. Some anime fans would give anything to see this sort of advertising campaign for an anime movie, but it's not going to happen, not in North America anyway. According to Urban Vision, this is the poster that will be used to promote the new Vampire Hunter D movie when it's released in South Korea. You won't see that kind of promotion for the same film in the US and Canada, but you're certain to see some promotion and a theatrical release in major markets. Marketing manager Rona Medina told FanMeCon fans about the new movie on Friday evening. To start, Urban Vision is going to emphasize that the new Vampire Hunter film is fresh and different from the original film that was released in 1985. It's bigger than the anime genre, she said. It reaches out to action fans and to gothic fans. And there are plans to show the new D film in theaters in September 2001 in the largest US markets. One point that's unique about this film is the language. It's being released in English, not in Japanese, with actors including Dwight Schultz, Pamela Siegel, Wendy Lee, and Andy Philpott as D. Even when the film is shown in Japan, it'll be English with Japanese subtitles. Medina said, English is the original language version. They want to show how universal this film can be. The next step for the promoters is to decide what they'll what title they will place in this movie. Vampire Hunter D Eternal Thirst is one possible title. Now today we know it as Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Eventually, I will watch that movie. Here's the latest Asuka and Rei reunion. Together for the first time in 2001, actors Amanda Winley and Tiffany Grant talked to fans on Friday at FanimeCon. These actors have essayed many roles in their anime dubbing career, but now that they're always asked about the roles as Rei and Asuka in Neon Genesis Evangelion, roles they will revisit when the new Eva movies are dubbed in from manga entertainment. Lee, who enjoys the process of creating convincing performances and directed the original Evangelion dubs, will be in charge of the new version. Rei is this way out surreal voice. Lee said, I get in the weirdest, scariest place with Rei. I say, tell me a joke. I can't take it anymore. Actors need to believe in a character to generate a good performance, she said. When she played a role in Blue Seed, you could tell in my voice that I was irritated with my character. Lee can tell if actors don't care for the characters, feeling that the reason for the flat performances that fans dislike in dubs. She won't accept the lifeless characters in dubs she directs for Gaijin Productions along with her husband Jason Lee, including some English language voice tracks for PlayStation games. Asuka remains one of Grant's favorite characters, to the point she has an Asuka plug suit and shops her Asuka merchandise at anime conventions. Grant also enjoyed the Madam President character from Golden Boy, but won't dress as her. She develops characters as all the crazy people who run around my head. For the fans who want to get into acting, both actors recommend that people get as much community theater experience as possible. Grant still plays Snow White in children's theater. Important to getting roles in anime dubs are a convincing brief demo tape, and living in the area where the dub studios are located, they said, noting that some companies like ADV Films advertise for actors in local newspapers. Wow, newspapers. That takes me back. Two other actors talk about what it's like to die over and over again. All right, this is for you, Jonathan. All right, Jonathan Osborne and Doug Smith. So, you really want to get started in anime voice acting? Prepare to die. Horrible, painful deaths over and over again. Or so say Jonathan Osborne and Doug Smith. The actors told FamiCon fans about how they got started into the voice acting business from the bottom and tried to work their way up the ladder. While lead actors get the roles of lead characters, someone else is needed to provide the background noises of characters, the roar of monsters and screams of faceless minions who are brutally dispatched by heroes and bad guys. Osborne and Smith call that scream and die work. They found that voice directors take the screams of the dying as seriously as the energetic performance of the lead actors. You're going to die a grisly death, so breathe in deeply, Smith recalled as instructions from one voice director. Smith handled so much villain death work at ADV Films that I started hearing these rumors about a drinking game. Every time the fans heard my voice, they took a drink. But after a lot of garbage roles, Smith got the fan favorite part of Kintaro in Golden Boy. He's put his acting career on hold while he works for Studio Aruncat, but Smith intends to return to voice acting one day. Osborne learned an important lesson from his first role of a guard who was garroted in Bastard. It takes a long time to die, 30 seconds in the case of his role. I had to do this while this whole gargling sequence, he called. One voice director was super picky about the monster noises he tried to make, saying that his grunts and groans were too high-pitched. But the effort has paid off, and familiarity with his multiple demises has gotten Osborne some roles with actual character names and words to speak other than ARG. Two writers talk about the anime and manga art and the way people react. Fred Padden is best known in the anime fandom from his work with the Cartoon Fantasy organization, and Giles Portress is best known as the author of books that explain the anime world and Japanese culture to fans. At FanimeCon on Friday, the two writers discovered they had something else in common. They both worked in libraries. Patton was a technical librarian for Hughes Aircraft before going to work for Streamline Pictures, and Portres is currently the director of information resources at the Exploratorium Museum in San Francisco. Both men are interested in the literary side of anime and manga, and they talked about the subject on Friday. Portres loves learning the details about the production of the anime series, and he hoped to promote websites that contain these details in an onsen mark program. However, it's been hard to find those sites, he said, noting that most fan sites are limited to character descriptions and pictures. Note, this site recommends Richard's animated divots for information on the chronology of anime. In the meantime, Portres has released yet another book on the basics of anime, intended as the new version of Anime Beginner's Guide, once written by British author Helen McCarthy. And Giles and Helen have been very supportive of my upcoming book, and I'm so glad to have met them and so glad to have been mentored by these voices of fandom. And I really look forward to when my book comes out to be another voice of fandom for the millennials who got into anime in the late 90s, early 2000s, that WB era. However, being literate about anime doesn't mean being literal, according to Patton, who writes for Animation World magazine. Anime and manga have long stretches of storytelling where moods and atmospheres are set by silences and panels without words. The practice gets lost in some English language translations, and Patton doesn't appreciate the changes. He dates a fill in the blanks changes back to days when Carl Masick of Streamline was ordered to fill silent spaces in anime with dialogue and narration. And here's a look at more costumers from Friday. All right, let's just take a look at 6 pages of costumers. We have Vision of Escaflowne. Not quite sure what series these are. If anyone can fill in either in the chat or in the comments. Of course, we got Final Fantasy. That's definitely King of Fighters. I've always wanted to try that fighting game, but no one's here to teach me. Or, yeah. Let's see. More King of Fighters. Ooh, Sayuki. Digikarat. Zoisite from Sailor Moon. Oh, we got Captain Tyler. Oh, we got a Buletta from Darkstalkers. That Sailor V looks really cute. Got Noriko over there. We have Noriko from Gunbuster. Oh, that's a really cute Utena. Oh, I love that Serenity. Like, this can either be like Neo Queen Serenity or like old school Queen Serenity. You've got Princess Utena here. Well, Rose Bride Utena. Pig! Not sure what it's from, but it's adorable. Got Sorcerer Hunters over there. Got Asuka. Got Utena. I want to say that's from Pokemon. I'm getting like Bulbasaur vibes. Let's see. Kaji over there, just big pimpin', spending cheese. And yeah, we have more Escaflowne goodness over there. So happy like seeing like all these Escaflowne cosplayers. That's like one of baby's first isekais. Okay, let's head over to Saturday. Saturday started off with a colorful collection of costumers. Okay, we got 20 pages of cosplay. Let's see who's here. Got some magical girl goodness. Wolfwood. Ah, yes, one of my dream cosplays. One day I will cosplay as this version of Sakura. We got Inuyasha. FLCL. Yeah, you can see like a lot of old school Trigon in here. Thank you. Next. Okay. Lena Inverse, Saber Marionette. Final Fantasy, Card Captured Sakura. More Final Fantasy. Ooh, Rabion Rose from Digikarat. That was like one of my It's funny because my mom and I were watching some episodes of Digikarat because she wanted to learn Japanese because she had a lot of clientele in the hospitals that were Japanese. So like, yeah, let's watch some Digikarat. And she's like, hey, are you gonna cosplay as the bunny girl? I'm like, yeah, mom, I am. Yeah, just making my way, just scrolling here. And I think like one of the things I liked about looking at Fansview, like when I first started cosplaying, is I appreciate that Kevin took photos of every cosplayer, or at least he tried to get photos of every cosplayer because it also showed that like yeah, it didn't matter if you were like a seasoned cosplayer or if you just went to Goodwill and just pieced a few things together, like you were still legitimate. And like as someone who is new to the community, like oh, I can take a Chinese dress and I can be shampoo. And one day I ended up taking a white dress and white Chinese dress, and someone's like, "Yeah, you would make an awesome Ginrei from Giant Robo." I had no idea what Giant Robo was back then, but it was not until recently I started watching Giant Robo. Like, hey, I kind of like Ginrei. She's like totally badass. I like her. Okay, so looks like nothing is being loaded. All right, let's continue on with the next panel. Fanfiction writers gathered in a group. All right, Fanfiction Writers Anonymous, let's go. The love of characters and the need to let ideas escape from their heads. That's why so many anime fans write their own stories, and that's why four of fanfiction writers got together at FanimeCon on Saturday morning. From left to right, they're Jim Lazar, Peter Ward, Joseph Palmer, and Christopher Olson. It might just be coincidence, but this group seems to specialize in Ranma one-half stories. Although they're interested in their versions of the characters from other series. Lazar enjoys writing, says it relaxes him, and purges your mind of some ideas. He admits his early stories weren't polished. I put a Rama story and it wasn't very good when I released it, but I didn't know any better at the time, he said. Ward turned his love of role playing games into a story to support a campaign in a game. Later, Ward said he once saw a scantily clad anime girl on a website and thought it would be ridiculous to actually wear that in public, and then wondered what would happen if that sort of skin bearing outfit was a real life uniform. A story followed, of course. I read fanfics for 4 or 5 years, said Olson. I thought it was really cool, so I became an English major and got a degree. Assisted by writing those stories, he said. Palmer started writing stories after he watched untranslated Ranma one half videos. Not knowing the language, I made up stories in my head. What fascinated me was the Tendo house. It seemed so alien, but the characters seemed so comfortable with it. He likes to look at for actual situations to put his stories. If you see something in real life that's also an anime, and you say, I lived something like that, you can put it into a story. Olson speaks for fanfic writers when he expresses the need to fill out what he sees as unfinished stories. When I saw the end of Ranma and the first Saber Marionette's J series, I said, that's not an end. There could be so much more, Olson commented. All right, let's talk about some bunnies. Stan Sakai had rabbit tails for fans. Welcome, Professor Ramses. You just came in just in time to discuss Stan Sakai. A third generation American of Japanese descent, Stan Sakai is a regular guest at FanimeCon and has a legion of fans for his Usagi Yojimbo series of comics about a Ronin rabbit in feudal Japan. But there's a sense of irony around Sakai when he talks about his work, as he did on Saturday at FanimeCon. For one thing, the Yojimbo comics have fans in Europe, but not necessarily in Japan. Sakai thinks that's because manga is so popular in Japan that American-style comics such as his don't appeal to the Japanese reader. They think that Western comic books are very superficial, said Sakai, and the small size of American comic books makes them look like pamphlets in comparison to the thick weekly, monthly manga publications. Yojimbo has one thing in common with the manga. It's in black and white, buckling with the American tradition of color comics. Sakai said when he was persuaded once to come out with a color Yojimbo and was surprised to find his fans didn't like the color version. Sales for the color Yojimbo actually dropped and didn't rebound until the series went back into the original monochrome, he said. And even stranger was that the sales increased when the series' single issue price was increased from $2 to $2.50. Yojimbo remains a mix of fantasy and reality. The fantasy comes from the idea of talking animals waging feudal conflicts with live steel. I choose the animals specifically they look good, Sakai notes, saying that the selected species usually don't carry their real life nature into the comics pages, although he did make a snake into a villain once. While animals don't fight like those kinds of wars, Sakai uses the history of feudal Japan as a guide to the stories he writes. The research adds to the credibility. Lack of credibility destroys the story, even if it just happens to feature funny animals, he said. Adam Warren is going beyond Dirty Pair. All right, what is beyond Dirty Pair? If there's a common theme in Adam Warren's artwork and stories, whether it's Gen 13, Magical Queen Roxy, Dirty Pair, or Bubblegum Crazies, it's that the stories are based in the future. Warren may not want to live in the future, but he'd rather draw there. When Warren was asked about a pending Wildstorm project, he said, "There are some directions I might go that could cause some objections. It will be set in the future because I can make up everything. If the present I have to do reference. It took years of my life to draw real malls." The closest that Warren has come to drawing objections to his work in recent years is a 1995 Dirty Pair series where Yuri died and replaced with her vat-grown clone. "I got a lot of mail for killing off Yuri," he said. Had I not had the good Yuri die, it would make a real Star Trek Next Generation ending to it." Warren still sometimes has to explain to fans that his version of the pair is different from the original TV series version, because he didn't get the rights to draw the version created by Nippon Sunrise. And when fans said his pair aren't manga, he replies, "It is not. So what?" Whoops. Part of the futuristic flavor of Warren's work is the use of foreign language in signs and labels, especially in Japanese. Warren admitted that those signs are more to create the atmosphere of his stories, and they don't always mean anything. "Sometimes the kanji signs are just the names of artists. I feel I'm paying for the real weird use of English in the manga," Warren said to laughs from the audience. Whew. Some things don't age well. Here are more of the Saturday costumers. Okay, we got a bunch of Fushigi Yugi, Escaflowne. Yeah, I recognize a couple of these folks here. And sometimes it's cool, like, see people in the background I recognize. I want to say this is Fushigi Yugi because I'm getting some Miyaka kind of vibes to it. I love this Ray Earth cosplayer here. That Hikaru is so amazing. Still want to cosplay as Umi one of these days. Movie Rose Bride, Tuxedo Mask. Yeah, Fanime is such a different world like 20 years ago. Especially when it's over at the Santa Clara Convention Center. Movie Utena. I do love the movie Utena. Got Sanrio, Ryoga, Chichiri. Do love that Cardcaptor Sakura movie version. We have okay, we've got some Malice Miser. Utena. Oh, we got Sailor Chibi Chibi. Chaos. Venus. Wicked Lady. Black Lady. Iron Mouse. Not the Iron Mouse a lot y'all think of. Because when I think of Iron Mouse, I mainly think of Sailor Moon. Lee Shalron. Oh, we got Makona. There was like one summer where I had like the. No! Next page. Alright, looks like we can't advance forward. So we're going to have to continue on Saturday. Alright, a bonus look at the Sailor Jam Brie group. I like how they like emphasize jam on here. Okay, it looks like they did something off the Sailor Moon musicals. Ooh, I love that Mistress 9. Yeah, the musical outfits are just like, have like this extra layer to it, like this extra bling. Like, it is one of my goals to eventually make a Sailor Moon musical outfit. Alright, let's talk some Hiroshi Aro. When Hiroshi Aro, as the creator of Futaba-kun Change series, was about a gender-bending teen, appears at conventions, fans want to know his favorites and his influences. Aro tends to be modest about his feelings, but Steve Bennett of Studio Iron Cat told fans that the artist is just being modest and courteous to his fellow creators. Aro said that he doesn't read many other manga, but also noted his experience as an artist makes it a little harder to appreciate the work as a fan might appreciate it. Instead of reading the comics as a whole, I see individual drawings, said Aro. Aro did admit he tended to get in trouble with his parents when he was a child because he insisted on drawing on the walls of his home. Aro's progressed past that, of course. Then there's the Sentai superhero shows that he always watched when he was young. I live with those shows. I always wanted to become a Sentai, he said. Instead of copying the shows, I want to pay homage to them. Aro is modest when he speaks of the need to please people who buy his manga. If I draw something for myself, I'll understand it, but I have to consider the readers. If you read Aro material, you've seen the alligator that pops up and says, "I didn't intend for this to happen." That's Aro's modesty speaking again, talking how he wanted a scene to look a certain way or a story to head in one direction while another direction resulted. What about the infamous laxative lace beauty contest in Futaba? Aro said that was his attempt to change the series and take out its high school setting. What? Also, Aro admitted that I was interested in drawing the bathing suits. The cosplay closet had pointers on paint. Okay, cosplay closet. Fabric is the king of anime costuming, since most outfits are clothing based. But what about the colors, getting the colors right and creating a convincing effect? Fabric paints and dyes then come into play, said the people who make up the cosplay closet, David Ramsey and Kimberly Johnson. But what sort of paints or dyes to use? The couple noted that there are many kinds of paint with different chemical bases, and the right kind has to be used on specific surfaces. The first paint suggestion from Ramsey. We have a literal Professor Ramsey's here. Was to use Deca or Jacquard fabric paint. It's a permanent heat set paint that embeds itself with the fibers and does not come out, even after washing. Acrylic paints are not good for fabric, but it's great for paper, cardboard, and wooden objects for props. Model builders depend on Tester's paint, and he recommends to paint plastic and hot glue. Hot glue? Yes, it can be used to resemble and decorate other objects. Testor's paint can add the illusion of metal and other reflective surfaces. Ramsey also recommends automotive paint such as plastic coat and Rust-Oleum. They're good for large, solid objects, but not for foam. The propellants in the spray cans demolish. The cosplay couple noted that hall costumes actually need to be more detailed than stage costumes because people in the hall see the details up close. A masquerade audience views a costume from a distance, and the finer details are not necessary. Johnson remembered to emphasize that beyond the dreams of technical perfection, the important thing is to have fun, even though help others. We're fans too. In the second hour of the panel, Johnson discussed web resources for cosplays, including photo galleries and link directories to materials. Many of these lesser known websites can be helpful to budding cosplayers. And we also have a tip from Professor Ramses in the chat, no relation. What you can do is melt the glue, put some acrylic paint into a pot, and then put them in a cylinder to the size of the glue stick. Three guys from New Generation spoke about three eyes. 3 by 3 Eyes has been on home video for a few years in North America, but it's re-emerging in a fresh dub from New Generation Pictures. The same company that handled the amazing Nurse Nanako and just finished the first episodes of Naya Under 7 series before FanimeCon. The creative team of 3 by 3 Eyes are actor Taliesin Jaffe, President Jonathan Klein of New Generation, and director Greg Wiseman. How much of the original intent of the Japanese did the 3 by 3 Eyes dubbers use? Jaffe said that they tried to follow the meaning of the voices along with the dialogue. We took accents and the dialogue from the Japanese, look at how they were speaking, and tried not to come up with literal translation, he said. We're trying to find words that had the same meaning and flavor in Japanese. Pai is a key figure in 3 by 3 Eyes and difficult character to write for a cast. On her dialogue, Klein noted that Pai speaks in broken Japanese, and we wanted to find that flavor in the English language version. Finding the right actor for the part was more difficult because of Pai's split personality. One moment a bubbly teen, the next moment a domineering woman. For the new version, New Generation found one actor to handle those two different personalities, where the previous dub used two actors. Yes, Professor Ramses, that is Greg Wiseman. We actually talked about his Gargoyles panel earlier in the stream. To Wiseman, 3 by 3 Eyes is more than the story of a zombified teen fighting monsters for his semi-alien girlfriend. It's a deeply human story. An important theme was the friendship and loyalty between the characters, he said. So there were some interesting word games used to show the relationship and the nature of the characters. In a scene where Yakumo described his friends, Wiseman chose to have him use the word gang to describe his acquaintances. And Pai picks up gang to be a synonym for friend. That touch was intended to tell as much about Pai about Yakumo, said Wiseman. All right. Hiroyuki Yamaga is getting back into the creative world. All right. Let's hear it for Gainax Boy here. Oh, I love this photo. Yeah, I'll definitely have this on like the main photos for Fanime 2001 on the thumbnail. Everyone's heard of the old saying that some people do the best thinking in the shower or in the bathtub. What happened when you tried that technique on a large group of anime producers? According to Hiroyuki Yamaga of the Gainax Studio, that's what he did when he decided to start producing and directing anime again. This story starts in 2000 when Yamaga appeared at FanimeCon to show film clips and art from what was then the new FLCL series. That was all he had to present, and while it was mostly his company's work, Production IG also worked for FLCL, it wasn't Yamaga's work. I became a little sad that I wasn't doing anything, Yamaga told an audience at FanimeCon on Saturday. In the summer of 2000, Yamaga started to develop anime series again. He used the phrase stages and scenery in describing the basic concepts of two new series. One will be based on an existing manga, which means the concept is already in place. The second series was intended to be a completely new idea just for film. The most difficult is the original series because I have to come up with everything, he said. There's no storyboard or characters. It's hard to explain this to the people who will sponsor us. Since the sponsors are key to getting an anime series made, they have the money and usually get the rights to the series. Yamaga had to come up with a fully fleshed concept. And there's the onsen retreat came to play. Yamaga took his creative staff from Gainax to Hot Spring to spend a week drawing up the new manga concept. Onsen had a reputation of being a relaxing place, but that's not what Yamaga wanted or got. At 8 or 8:30 a.m., a person rolls up the mats in the rooms, and you could not stay asleep. Rather than the manga reduce its habit of writing than napping. Yamaga wanted his staff to focus on the job as if they were in the army. It was a great example of how the Japanese practice of collaboration. Even some of Yamaga's own ideas for the anime series didn't get through this process. Kunihiko Ikuhara, mixed jokes and serious talk for fans. Kunihiko Ikuhara, the creator of the Revolution Girl Utena series, was in a playful mood when he spoke to fans on Saturday at FanimeCon. I'm happy to see there are so many cute girls in the audience. Oh, jeez. He joked when a group that included several people in Utena costumes. When Ikuhara added, "By the way, I'm single," the females in the audience cheered, and a lot of Ikuhara's answers to fan questions were short and to the point. Why did he move to the US? It's a secret. Why is the Mickey character always timing events with a stopwatch? It's a secret. Is one of your goals to confuse people and stretch your brains? Of course. Are you trying to say something with Utena? I'll leave that up to you. And whatever happened to his singing career? I got very discouraged. On the other hand, encouragement is what Ikuhara offers to aspiring manga artists. When he was asked about Utena Dojinshi, he said, "Sometimes there are really good artists. It's very rare, but sometimes I would go and get in contact with them and refer them for work. I tend to like young artists who don't have pre-established careers. When people send their artwork to me, I always look at them." Of course, Ikuhara has collaborated with artist Shio Saito on the Utena manga, and they're working on a new manga project. Was he kidding when he said the title would be The World of the S&M? No, he wasn't. I actually have like the 2 volumes that was made, and I don't think it was ever completed. It's like French Revolution isekai, and not in the good kind of way. If you ever seen, I think the movie is called like Remote Control, or it's the one where the parents get isekai'd into cable television and they end up in the French Revolution. It's a lot like that. Ikuhara does not kid around when he speaks about one of the studio's major influences on his career. The late Japanese artist Shuji Terayama, the stage and writer-director whom Ikuhara idolized. Ikuhara said that Terayama was a revolutionary figure who mixed art and politics, and he always wanted to work with Terayama, but he died before Ikuhara had a chance. So Ikuhara settled for the next best thing. He hired one of Terayama's collaborators, the composer J.A. Caesar, to write the music for the Utena films. Yeah, Ramsey, yeah, it was called Stay Tuned. It's like the ones where the parents get isekai'd into cable television. Same director who did Time Cop. Terribly underrated movie. It's one of my comfort movies from that time period. In the summer of 1999, Mari Ejima produced her first independent album, a collection of songs called No Limit. In the spring of 2001, Ejima started working on a new album. In the days before FanimeCon, she went to a recording studio to lay down the first tracks for that album. Then at her Saturday convention concert, Ejima performed some of those tracks for the first time in public. "I just wanted to play brand new stuff," she said during her performance. The new album will have songs in Japanese and English, sometimes with both languages in the same song. Ejima noted that the convention fans always wanted her to sing in Japanese, so she made a switch from an all English, No Limit. "My English is right. It's not like, what does it mean?" Ejima said about language. The tracks that Ejima used as an accompaniment at her concert were unfinished rhythms section tracks, but they show that her style of sweet sentimental love songs has not changed. If all goes well, the new album will be finished in July of 2001, just in time for that month's Anime Expo. Ejima hopes to be invited back as a guest of honor, noting that she won a fan poll on the convention's website as a guest from 1999 that the people most wanted to have back at the event. Ejima probably made a statement of her hopes for the future by wearing a blouse that said Rockstar on the front. And the concert provided an example of how people feel about Ejima. While she was speaking up to the audience, a cell phone loudly trilled and the audience booed. "Is it an important phone call?" she asked. The theater stage was filled for the costume contest. All right, let's look at some of these masquerade entrants here. If the, no, it's not loading. So sad. Oh, okay. But page 2 loads. Okay, looks like, ooh, stage combat. I do love me some really amazing stage combat skits. Okay, just scrolling down through here. Looks like we got a Magic Knight Rare skit. I do like that Mokana. Okay, I want to say this is a fighting game. Oh, it's Cranberry Jam from Thing. It's funny because I actually thought about cosplaying from as Cranberry Jam um around the time, what was it, Genshiken? Yeah, when Genshiken was the thing, because they would like play this fighting game all the time. And I was dating someone's like, oh, you can't cause these Cranberry Jam or skirts too me. I'm like, I can make it look nice. You just don't know my skills. But yeah, like I've had a lot of really bad encounters with the fighting game community, so I'm like, yeah, I kind of steered clear for them for like a good decade or so. I mean, I'm always up for like learning different fighting games. I mean, I did take time to like learn Dead or Alive, but it's just people in the fighting game community and like in the fighting game scene just can be like very clicky and very toxic. So I just don't really bother with it, and I just wish there were nicer people in that community that were like, hey, I want to teach you something. I want to teach you a thing. Hey, Kakura Sakura, there's a Carol plush. There's also a actual Carol here. Just scrolling through here. Looks like we got some Sailor Moonness up next. I love how they have like different variants of like the Sailor Senshi. Oh, we got Starfighter. Nice. It's like Country Bumpkin Tenchi Muyo. Looks like this is Digimon. I'm assuming this is Madashita with his shirt off. Oh my god, you could not escape animal magnetism back in the day. We have some Saber Marionette. Oh my god, I love these Seiyuu sound guys. Oh, this is like, I don't want to bring attention to, like this. That was like the second skit where they had bare feet. Scrolling through, got some Visual K goodness here. Yeah, 2001 was like my intro to Visual K. Okay, we got, looks like it's Sailor Jamboree. Emphasis on the jam. Pump it up, pump the jam. Got Uranus, Cardcaptor Sakura. I want to say just based on the color blocking and the style of this outfit, this is Celeste in the Opera outfit from Final Fantasy VI. Still need to get back into it. Oh, that's a cute Cardcaptor Sakura. I might know who that is. Yeah, Sailor Mew was just like big in the day. If you like knew how to sew, or if you just wanted to show something off, like early 2000s, cosplaying from the Sailor Moon musicals was it. Awesome, Wicked Lady over there. Okay, got Vash and Wolfwood. I like sometimes because of Stampede, I've had to call this like vintage Vash and Wolfwood. All right, let's look at the award winners of the evening. The winning costumers took a new look at some old favorites. Oh, the Country Bumpkin Tenchi Muyo group won Best of Show. That's pretty awesome. The Utena group got Judges Award. Got some Cardcaptor Sakura goodness here. Oh, these are like my favorite fandoms just like winning, and these are just like all the fandoms from my childhood. Got Record of Lodos Wars. If you've seen like the new Lord of the Rings anime movie, it has like a lot of Lodos vibes. Like I want to like take the clips from like the latest Lord of the Rings anime movie and like to set it to like the opening theme to Record Lodos Wars. You missed our 3x3 Ice Talk Azure Mage. We have, yeah, that was definitely Celeste from Final Fantasy VI. Bandai Award. Yeah, you missed the 3x3 Eyes talk. You're gonna have to watch the video on demand for the 3x3 Eyes panel. Technical superiority group. Artistic superiority. We need awards that have the word superiority in it again. Most humorous. Youth artistic superiority. Aww. Also, you missed out on the dancing topless Nadeshiko, I think. Who's cute Digimon cosplayer over there? All right, let's roll into Sunday. Let's wrap things up at Ancient Fanime. The last look of the Northern California costumers. All right, let's head back to the Santa Clara Convention Center and see what people wore on Sunday. Oh my god, Slayers! Remember when Cabets were a thing? We got some Final Fantasy. I feel like Final Fantasy is never going to go out of style. We got Uten and Sailor Moon, like my two magical girl fandoms like growing up. And these outfits were, I believe it was like from the musical where they start like a girl pop star group. And they sing a song called Light Adventure. Oh, that's a really nice Utena wig. Oh, that Carol's adorable. I love it. A Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. Original Sakura over there. Yep, Final Fantasy never goes out of style. It feels so evergreen. Okay, we have some Malice Miser happiness here. Okay, this fan is looking towards an art career. All right, let's see what panel this is. KJ Karvonen. Okay, KJ Karvonen got a reputation through his anime code articles and his use in postings, but the man goes beyond that. He's an artist and writer who's worked on some major projects, and he's hoping to expand his works into the realm of manga. Along with Terry Karvonen, okay, I think that's having Karvonen, KJ is creating a manga and hopes to find a publisher who will handle the book. He'd rather make money than spend money. A big part of the manga's visual attraction is the use of shading through screen tone. In Japan, manga artists buy plastic sheets of screen tone, cut into a place on a screen where a figure needs to be defined. Karvonen is one of the many artists who has turned computers to create the same effect. Using Photoshop and PageMaker, Karvonen adds the shading to the pages. The trick is to make the shading look correct. The hard part to do is to make the texture match the rest of the panel without making it stand out like a sore thumb, he said. What stories will Karvonen tell? He'll start with a parody in his Magical Princess Sakura series. An example of this was on display on Sunday, showing the first panels of the tale that's a cross between the Iron Chef cooking show and Tuxedo Kamen from Sailor Moon. Karvonen used his computer to create scenes of textures for the parody, including a logo that looked like the kanji used for the Iron Chef logo. These fans show the power of Sailor Moon. There's no denying the popularity of Sailor Moon at anime conventions. Just look at the number of women of all ages who wear Sailor Moon costumes. One of the most colorful groups of the organized Sailor Moon costumers is Sailor Jamboree. On Sunday, they appeared at Fanime Con in what they called enameled fruity hot pants suits, based on the outfits that the Sailor Senshi wore when they entered a music contest. But Jamboree bases their best known costumes on outfits that are only seen in Japan. Tristan Citrine was one of the Jamboree groups that spoke. Sorry, Tristan Citrine was one of the Jamboree group that spoke about Sailor Moon musicals in Japan. These stage shows feature singing and dancing characters from the TV show performing new stories you'd never see on TV. There's an example of the musical where Sailor Moon meets Dracula. In the first act, the vampires bite the Sailor Senshi and they become evil, she said. It's a lot darker than the anime. There's a lot of gothic things going on. They're great entertainment, and even if they don't make sense to people. Citrine saw a musical in Japan and asked a friend what was happening, and he didn't know. Inspired by Sailor Jamboree, there's another group of fans who are forming their own Sailor Moon costuming group. They're calling themselves Senshi Mysterious. And they have members that scatter around the US, aged 13 to 45. Senshi Mysterious made an appearance at the Fanime Con costume contest, and they had to overcome some problems with the sound system. That denied the group the chance to use one of the first "all your base belong to us" jokes on a cosplay stage. But they weren't upset. Senshi Mysterious thinks that the costumes had to adjust to whatever happens. These people handle manga for Viz. These are the manga men of Viz Communications, the people who are in charge of most of the California company's important and printed art. From left to right, they're Bill Flanagan, editor of America Extra, Jason Thompson, editor of the Dragon Ball Z Mobius titles, and Carl Horn, editor of Pulp and Neon Genesis Evangelion. They got together on Sunday to talk about their titles and plans for the future. Flanagan said that America Extra title has settled into a pattern that will remain quite distinct from the predecessor title, Manga Vision. The previous version was a mishmash of manga, but America Extra is focused on relationship stories. He said, "What about the more Katsura titles? Viz hasn't been able to secure them," he said. As for a current Katsura title, Girl Eye, Flanagan had an interesting story. There were more nude females in the original, but Japanese parents complained, and some of the nudity was masked with an underpants that got into the version that was published by Viz. The censorship question comes up in the Dragon Ball series published by Viz, where complaints led to changes would cause more complaints that led to more changes. Thompson said there's more bathroom humor in the original Dragon Ball manga, and Viz left that in the first issues published in the US. However, North American parents complained about and the raunchy stuff was taken out. Then fans complained about the removal, and Viz decided to publish the uncensored version they've advertised. Pulp has turned into an adult direction in recent months, and it's gotten place in the adult area of some stores. Horn understands that move, but he adds that they aren't porno comics and they have an identity problem. Pulp is gradually increasing in popularity and the sales as people discover its intense stories, Horn said. On another one of those titles Horn handles, the Neon and Genesis Evangelion series will go on hiatus in April, but it will resume in July with double-sized issues. All right, we've gone from talking about Sailor Moon costuming groups, and now we're going to talk about yaoi. First time on Fansview Fridays, we're talking about boys' love. Whoopee. Or should I say, yaoi. Not every anime convention panel has its own theme song, but the yaoi genre is unique. I am living in a yaoi world, and I'm a yaoi girl. Sang the impromptu quartet that introduced a discussion of anime and fan fiction that concentrates on romance and sex between beautiful young men. A few men are interested in the genre, but appeals mostly to females, both in Japan and in North America. So many are interested that a YaoiCon is planned the first weekend of September in San Francisco. Most of the women on the yaoi panel came to the genre through fan fiction they discovered by online research of their favorite anime series. It's not a matter of homosexuality as much as romance and beauty, they said. It is a fantasy, said Larissa. It's not reality, which is one of the nice things about it. What I like is the idea of beautifully drawn guys and no distracting females. Tansy said, I like romance, and yaoi is another aspect of the romantic fan fiction I've been reading. Thea said that she also enjoys yaoi fan fiction that breaks the bonds of the original series. I didn't think there was anything unusual with male-male couplings. Most of the interesting relationships that are non-canonical are between two males, she said. Rachel said that she liked yaoi because I could see two guys at once instead of one. Among the panelists, the straight anime series that had the most appeal were for Shugi Yugi, duh, and Yu Yu Hakusho, yeah, duh. The panelists would like to see pairings from the most handsome men from those series. One fan said she'd like to see a pairing of Ranma and Ryoga from Ranma 1/2, by the way. All right, let's wrap things up. The author reflects on the upgraded event. And before we do that, let's have a drink of coffee. In 2000, the author was as critical of FanimeCon as any other convention. Was 2001 different in Silicon Valley? Yes. With a switch of leaders, the 2001 FanimeCon was a better convention than the previous year's event. There's a hint in the schedules. No one seemed to be sure of the convention starting time in 2000, so it began on a Thursday, although no one seemed to know why. In 2001, the convention started early on Friday morning, so early that the author nearly missed the opening ceremonies, which happened around the time the author's flight connections, the first on the day he could find, arrived at the San Jose airport. Thanks to United Airlines for swiftly rebooking the author after a flight cancellation, so he got his destination at the original time. And when the author arrived, he found a far improved event. The convention was far more comfortable to attend in 2001 with stronger guest lists and more enthusiastic fans. Even the catcalling at the costume contest was less objectionable than the previous year. One measure of the convention's growth was the length of the line to get into the dealer's room on Saturday. That line was never shorter than a couple of 100 feet all day, showing the demand of the merchandise. The line was needed because, as before, the convention had to limit the number of people inside the room. This time, the video games were taken out of the dealer's room and given two separate locations. One room provided the hits of the weekend, the Dance Dance Revolution 4th mixed game, which was never left alone. An earlier version of the same game also stayed busy in the same room. Oh, those were the days. Fortunately for congoers, there was a steady supply of electricity to power the games for the event. Barely 2 weeks before FanimeCon, rolling power blackouts resumed because warm weather caused an increase in electricity consumption. Anime conventions depend on electricity to run all those projectors and the author's laptop and battery charger. FanimeCon was lucky to avoid the blackouts, although the cost included what seemed like diminution in the air conditioning on 2 warm days and extra energy surcharge on the hotel rooms for the convention. And FanimeCon showed a sense of ethnic diversity that the San Jose and San Francisco newspapers wrote about over the convention weekend, with a large Asian and Hispanic fan turnout. That was extended into the entire Santa Clara Convention Center, which saw FanimeCon share space with a pair of Islamic gatherings and a Christian homeschooling group. Lest you think those groups were on the opposite side of some sort of cultural gulf from anime conventions, it should be known that one of FanimeCon's leaders is a church musician who spent Sunday morning at services before he went to the convention on Sunday afternoon. Fans with a sense of nostalgia had to look on FanimeCon with a special feeling. The first attempt was a West Coast anime convention, was the first AnimeCon held on the 1991 Labor Day weekend in San Jose, California, a few miles and a few months away from 10 years earlier. The author isn't trying to leverage this website with stories of disaster, really, but what is the author to do when he walks past a TV set and sees CNN coverage of an earthquake in Seattle 2 months before SakuraCon? Just when the author was feeling proud of himself for buying a plane ticket to Seattle way ahead of the convention, he sees a TV report on how the airport has been closed by the quake. The airport control towers smashed, walls knocked down, the state capitol dome cracked. And the author worried about anime convention friends in the Seattle area. Word was quick to come that from all of them were okay. Actor Pan Lore, actor Tiffany Grant's family, the staff at SoccerCon. Okay. One of those convention staff members wrote, "When I got home, some stuff was shaken up, but luckily nothing fell off the shelves." And with any luck, the Seattle airport should be operating in order a long time before the author heads up there for SoccerCon. Less than a week after the earthquake came the school shooting in Santee, California. Since it came less than a year after the massacre in Littleton, Colorado, it raised a lot of host questions about teenage angst, violence, and weapons. And anime conventions may not be immune to those concerns. There was a hint of that new attitude at previous convention covered by this site. In February, Katsucon officials warned fans that Virginia law did not discourage police officers from drawing on and shooting people with replica guns, and fans shouldn't carry their prop guns in the halls. After the California shooting, Mike Tatsugawa, the man in charge of Anime Expo, cautioned fans that they should keep the replica firearms away from that convention. Fanime Con is in Northern California, hundreds of miles from the Santee shooting, but it's not far from De Anza College, where a 19-year-old student would have launched his own assault on the school, but he was arrested before he got the chance. It should have come as no surprise that there was a tougher stance on prop weapons at Fanime Con. I do remember hearing about this. Some customers had their toys taken away by hotel staff, and that generated a wave of complaints from customers at the constructive complaint session on Saturday afternoon. But with the weapons trouble in the US, that tighter attitude may be a regular part of conventions. And for context, this was months before 9/11. There are too many sad stories around real firearms that the issue not pop up at conventions. A couple of days after the Southern California shooting, there was a school shooting in Pennsylvania. And into the town where the author lives, a 6-year-old girl found the family gun and took it to school. The girl's parents were arrested and charged with neglecting their daughter and leaving the gun where she could reach it. The author worries that all the concern about guns in schools could turn into backlash against anime, which can be a violent and intense form on entertainment. Already, there are complaints that video games linked to anime are too bloody and gruesome. But if games and the anime are so horrible, why aren't there similar school shootings in Japan? Is the difference that violence entertainment is seen as a catharsis and release in Japan, rather than as a way for youth to learn to kill? Or are adults so irresponsible with guns in the US that children have too little difficulty getting firearms? The author believes that anime is no more violent than the half-hour westerns that littered American television in the 1960s. Anime might take the grand guignol approach to violence with exploding heads, but that's more honest than the TV approach of large caliber weapons leaving a small spot of blood on a shirt. Anime is more honest in showing consequences of violence. When anime characters die, the deaths rock the lives of the survivors and leave some very human suffering behind. If you're going to reject youth to reject gunplay, you have to show them that the romance is tempered by responsibility. Another sad note, that the time of the Another sad note, this time from the world of animation, 1 week before FanimeCon, William Hanna died in Los Angeles. Hanna was the animation partner of Joseph Barbera, both started the MGM's animation studio developing the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons. When the major movie studios shut down their animation lines from the 1950s, Hanna-Barbera turned to the new world of television, creating Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear before making a major primetime mark with the Flintstones. What does this have to do with anime fandom? It's sad that Hanna-Barbera cartoons made it to Japan. It's said that Hanna-Barbera's cartoons made it to Japan in the late 1950s and were seen on TV by the legendary Osamu Tezuka, who saw the shows and decided to start his own animation studio. So there may be a link between Rough and Ready and Astro Boy after all. And that, my friends, is Fanime 2001. And with that said, I just wanted to plug my upcoming book coming out next month. the Fangirl Diaries, coming out from McFarlane Publishing. You can order this directly from the website, order this on Barnes & Nobles, or you can click the link in the description to reserve your pre-order today. The Fangirl Diaries is about this moment in time in anime fandom history where millennials, where youth was just discovering anime and integrating it into underground youth culture. And this is my lived experience, starting an anime club at a Catholic school, weaseling my experience at Anime Central 2001 to get a full ride scholarship into university. I got a lot of stories here, a lot of stories from the old days, because I really think this is a very wild moment in time as anime was getting popular. This was still really the wild west of anime fandom before we know the anime fandom as we know it today. And with that said, I wish you all good night. Thank you all for checking out Fansview Fridays here at the Wisteria Cottage. More than happy to have you all here, and I wish you all a good night.